Hello and welcome all. I hope you're good and well on this Sunday evening. I hope you can hear and see me all okay. I feel very rushed, and I'm normally have like quite a big setup time. Right about 10 minutes before I was about to start all of my setup, I had a very upset 5-year-old who had a meltdown over some concerns about the tooth fairy and what happens if he lost his tooth and didn't find it and put it under his pillow, and all of these sort of like very dramatic life-changing concerns that a 5-year-old has. So I'm rushing around tonight. I hope you're all well. Welcome in, everybody. Great to see Rachel back from RACC UK. I hope you're great. Thank you, Near Cheeks, for the confirmation. It's always very much reassuring, especially before we get our guest on. Welcome back, Rachel. Great to see you. Welcome in, Lauren. I love you guys telling me where you're from. It's like become our little thing, hasn't it? That we didn't used to we just used to say hello to everyone, and now it's like, tell us where you're from, and I love it. Welcome in, Si. Are you watching in Wales or Northern Ireland side tonight? That's an in-joke in the community there. But yeah, I hope you're all good, guys. Great to see so many of you in here for the doggo content. I know our first animal guest, or co-guest, I should probably say, joined us tonight. So they say don't work for animals and children. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll be entertaining if nothing else. I hope you're all well, guys. We do have, just to quickly get in because I'll forget to say earlier, next week we do have a chronic pain club next week. I haven't got the event up yet because it all happened very last minute, but I'm really delighted to say that next Sunday at this time, Dr. Liz Pryor will be joining us. She's a professor at the University of Salford, does some amazing work up there, as do many people in the Manchester area around rheumatology and autoimmune disease work. She'll be joining us. She lives with axial SpA and osteoarthritis, so we'll be talking about that and the important work she does. So that's great guest for us on the Chronic Pain Club, because it gives us the lived experience that ticks that box, is what we exist for here on Sunday evenings, to share and elevate and amplify lived experience, but also to have a professional academic and everything to join us to talk about that side of it will be awesome. And then after that, we also have an academic joining us from the University of Aberdeen who's involved in two really key research studies around chronic pain and the way that impacts people's ability for employment and things like that. So all of those things we talk about every week on here regarding we're a peer support community, but the same themes come up every time about considering the caregiver, considering the wider person around the disease, not asking what hurts but what the impact is and all that jazz. So the fact that we've now got all these guests coming in that sort of fit that mold, it's just amazing. So thank you for everyone's support on the Chronic Pain Club today. This year has just gone mad. I don't know what's going on. The fact that this summer we'll be abroad doing this live at conferences because we've been asked to do it, it's like, I feel like an absolute fraud, but we'll do it anyway. We'll give it a go because we've been asked to. Just amazing, and it wouldn't happen without your support, guys. The YouTube channel's had nearly 70,000 views now, which is just mad for an old bald guy from Norfolk talking about how much pain he's in, and having them conversations with other people as well. So thank you for everyone's support. I just want to get that in there before I forget. And speaking of support, a big shout out, because I really need to do this more often, is a big shout out to the YouTube channel members. I really should thank you guys, because you support this show directly. We get loads of support from the community in terms of like Twitch subs and stuff like that, but the YouTube channel members support this show directly. So big shout out to Lauren, who I know is here with us tonight, Selby Sin, who's obviously here with us from Wales apparently, Nia Cheeks, who's also a moderator here, so big thank you to Nia Cheeks. Daniel Grice, I'm not sure I'm familiar with you, Daniel, but if you're in chat, please say hello, because I'd like to thank you personally. And obviously Si as well, that we know is behind a lot of those channel memberships with his kind generosity, gifting them to various people in the community. So thank you to everyone that supported us on YouTube, guys. Amazing. Never thought we'd get to this place. We do this stuff willingly, but yeah, to have people support us to make it better. And those of you who've been watching over the last 2 years have hopefully seen that evolution. Unfortunately, you now get me in HD, whereas before you didn't, and maybe that's not a good thing. But we've tried to make improvements as we've gone on. I've just seen Ocho lying very chilled on the sofa, and I'm really jealous because my spaniel doesn't ever sit still. So look, let's hope Ocho's still sitting chilled by the time we bring our guest on. We've all had enough of chronic pain. Oh, it's been an awful week, guys. Big shout out to everybody that's been in our Twitch streams over the course of the week. I don't have a little Twitch link to put up. I really should do that at some point. But basically, yeah, it's been a real theme this week on our live streams of people just suffering and struggling, and especially with pain related stuff. Like, I've had a really bad week and I've been open about that over on Twitch, but I know some people whose names are here in chat have sort of come in and hung out with us during the week and said they're struggling. So shout out to anyone going through that. Welcome in, Snuffle, by the way. I know it's rough at the minute. Don't forget that we do have a Discord where we share all of that stuff. We have a support forum on there, but we also talk about everything and anything: movies, books, jokes. Normally I'm the butt of a lot of them. But basically, yeah, we exist here on a Sunday night as a peer support community first and foremost, to help others feel less alone, less isolated, that they're not failing in this world of social media where so many people can make you feel like you're not achieving an achievable bar set by others with conditions. We're here to exist to say, sometimes it sucks and sometimes you did nothing wrong, and it's just the nature of the beast. That's what we're here for. So if you want to carry that conversation on during the week, you can find us there on Discord, where you would have seen a QR code pop up on screen a brief moment ago. If you want to scan that, you can go over there and join that. It's completely free. It's basically just like a chat room, and I'm sure Nia will be spamming chat with the link to that as well. And thank you for the link to Twitch, Nia. Really appreciate that, guys. I think that's all of the admin from me. Did I miss anyone coming in? Whilst I was doing all of that chat? By the way, guys, if you haven't been here before, firstly, welcome. Please do feel free to say hello. Your chat messages really do drive how many people see this live. 99% of our audience is what happens after we go offline. If you're new here, you have a live stream, so there's a group of people here chatting away during the interview. The chat will go off screen, but we'll carry on that conversation, and I will feature the best comments and things throughout. And sometimes your comments will help lead my questioning as well, so please do keep that coming. But the more engaged chat is, the more people that YouTube and other platforms that we're going out to right now are likely to show this video, this live stream, whilst we're still on air. If you missed this, would you be here to hear it? I don't really know. That feels like a little bit Inception-y. Say you've just joined and you missed the first few minutes or whatever. Basically, as soon as this stream ends, it goes up on YouTube. It actually goes up on all the platforms, warts and all, start to finish. So we never really get a true number of who watches this, because sometimes, we've seen hundreds watch it on Twitter, but that doesn't count towards what we see on YouTube. So basically, if whichever platform's your thing, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, etc., you can watch the whole thing there. And then in another couple of weeks, we will chop that video so you can just see the interview, so you can hear all of Chloe's logic and none of my nonsense. And then another couple of months down the line, the podcast will come out. And the reason we delay that, we tend to release the podcast episodes around awareness stuff. So if there's like a suitable awareness day or month or event, but also just so you're not getting the same story like over and over. Because we do have some people that are kind enough, mad enough, I don't really know how you want to put it, to follow us around the various platforms. Not everyone does, so we try to sort of go out everywhere to try and hopefully meet people where they are. But I appreciate some of you guys are with us on Twitch and YouTube and the podcast and everything, so we try to stagger it a little bit. Welcome in, Si. You just missed yourself getting a thank you and a shout out for being a channel member and for your generosity of helping other people be channel members. So thank you so much. Welcome in. Take it easy, mate. I know you're working hard at the moment. We've missed you in Discord and everything, so I hope you're good, and we're all thinking of you. Guys, I should probably get our guest in now because I've just seen the time. I told you I was rushing today. So hopefully this is going to go without a technical glitch, because you all know what I'm like when I'm out of my comfort zone and not doing things on autopilot. So let's hide we'll hide the chat. Thank you, guys. I will be keeping an eye on chat. I will be featuring the best comments, so please do keep those coming. Let's kill the music, because nobody needs that in the background during the interview. So, guys, tonight I'm absolutely delighted to welcome in a person who's believed to be the only clinical nurse in the UK with a wheelchair and an assistance dog, and is part of the 4% of nurses with a disability. This figure is surprisingly low, and she very much hopes by raising awareness and sharing her story that she can start to break down barriers faced by people with disabilities currently working or hoping to work in the healthcare industry. A very massive welcome to Chloe, and for the first time ever, our Animal Code guest, Ocho. Welcome in.
Hi guys, I know you were wanting to see the dog, so you may as well start with me.
I can't believe the transformation. Like before we went on air, he was very hungry and there was lots of whimpering going on, and now his belly's full and he's very chilled.
And he's lying on a heat pad. He's very happy.
Oh, well looked after. Well looked after. Well, welcoming Chloe. I hope you're well. Thank you so much for giving up your time this Sunday evening to join us. Before we get into sort of like deep dive in all the various topics we're going to cover tonight, for anyone that's maybe not come across your work or anything, do you want to maybe just give us a very sort of like high level overview of who you are, where you're from, what you do, and then we'll get stuck in.
Hi, so I'm Chloë Hammond. As you said, I'm believed to be the only clinical nurse working in the UK at the moment with an assistance dog and a wheelchair, but I'm not the first. There have been others. It's just not a common thing, which is something that I'm desperately trying to work on. So at the minute, I work as a community lead nurse for a company called Radis Community Care, and it's the best job in the world. I got asked at an event not long ago what my dream job would be, and I'm definitely working it.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's been a difficult road, and I don't think it's over. I mean, it's over in terms of I found a job that I love and that I can do, but there's so many people just like me that are still looking for that opportunity that I'd like to be able to help.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm not really sure how I didn't cross paths with you earlier, like because once I started sort of digging into what you do and all the work, it's just amazing. You're like the perfect guest for this show with all of the work you do to raise awareness. But I think it's probably important we go back to the start and talk about, you know, how you got to this point, because as I understand it, you weren't always disabled and things changed for you. Do you want to maybe talk us through that, and feel free to go into as much detail as you like?
Yeah, so I mean, I was born with hip dysplasia.
Right.
It just wasn't really picked up. My mom did, you know, the standard baby physio and what have you, and was told that everything would be absolutely fine. I then had a very active childhood. I was naturally bendy, so gymnastics, trampolining, dancing, that was kind of my thing. And I did really well at it. Like, I really excelled at it, but I always complained that I had hip pain, and I always complained that things just didn't quite feel right, and nobody really believed me. You know how it is, like, oh, it's growing pains, it's this, that, and the other. My brother was going through a very similar thing. He ended up having surgery on his knees and his back and all sorts. So I think I probably was disabled from the very beginning. We just didn't know it until about 10 years ago. Like, I mean, I would say a couple of years ago, but I was talking to my mum yesterday about something. I said, oh, I haven't been to this pub in about 5 years, and she went, it's about 10. Oh god, I'm old.
Yeah, that is a depressing thing I've noticed as I got older.
Yeah, so I went through uni not really using any kind of aids or anything. I mean, I used crutches sometimes, but lots of people did for lots of different reasons. I was still trampolining, I was still having injuries. It was quite easy to use crutches when I felt like I was injured or needed some extra support. Yeah. It wasn't really questioned. I mean, I was quite cagey about what I knew about my own health, because other universities had said maybe nursing wasn't the career for me. And I felt like it was. So I was quite cagey. I kept things to myself. I got through my course. I passed. Everything was fine. I worked for several years in different hospitals and different units. And then it wasn't until 2018, 19 that I started using a wheelchair. And I guess that's kind of when non-visible disabilities became very visible. And it was kind of an overnight thing. Like, I'd been off work sick for almost a year, and people didn't really know why, although it'd been building for a long time. So to suddenly return to work in a wheelchair, you get the whole, what happened? And you're like, oh, I don't know how to answer that. Like, nothing happened. That's kind of the point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've experienced the opposite, because I was in a wheelchair as a child, and then I came out, and trying to explain to people that things hadn't gone away, they just got managed better, or drugs had improved, and people just assume like it's naturally just gone, and I found that conversation equally as awkward as the first time I went into a wheelchair. So yeah, I can relate to that.
It is hard, definitely.
Yeah, so you talked about hip dysplasia and things like that, but did you when did you get an official sort of like name for what you were dealing with? And I appreciate you're not dealing with just one condition, right?
No, they're like buses, aren't they? You get one chronic condition and then they all come along at once. So I think 2008 or 9, I was diagnosed with, well, how are we going to say it? Beckett's?
Yeah, I say Beckett's, but I've heard it said about 3 or 4 different ways. So take your pick.
So yeah, I was diagnosed back then, also with chronic fatigue. I then And it then was everything that I complained about was put down to that. So I was having like gastric issues. Oh, that's that. I was having problems with my vision. Oh, that's that. Like, it was very easy for health professionals to bunch everything under one diagnosis, because then they didn't have to investigate it. So it wasn't until I was really complaining about hip pain, 2016, 2017, so quite a long time after my original diagnosis, that my physio and stuff was like, oh yeah, well actually you've got hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos loss as well. And then my rheumatologist was like, oh, and you've also got this small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, I think, I called SIBO.
Right.
And you've also got fibromyalgia. And yeah, no, the migraines that you've been experiencing, that wasn't the Behçet's. You've also got chronic migraines. And I was like, oh, well, now everything makes more sense. But it's taken 10 years to get to that point.
Yeah. And it's almost like, I don't know about you, like someone as well has got a couple of different, wearing different hats when it comes medically. It's like it almost you get a second diagnosis, it opens the door. Like, I don't know, it almost gives people confidence to then jump out of that initial diagnosis. Because I went 10 years thinking I had one condition, only to find out that was completely wrong. But nobody wanted to put the head above the parapet.
Do you know what I think it is, though? I think that as people with chronic illnesses, be that chronic pain or chronic anything, you are the expert in your condition. You know how you feel, and you, of course, you've Googled it. Like, you've looked at every article going about what it might be that you've got, and you've got the time to do that, and you've got a reason for doing that. And I think that makes a massive difference when you're looking for a diagnosis or a reason that you're having the problems you're having. You're going to research it until you find out, whereas a doctor's going to look very much at the obvious causes of something. And if you've already got a condition that could cause those symptoms, of course it's what they're going to go for. Like, they're very time pressured.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's just, and like you say, it is like buses, especially if you've got any form of like autoimmune. Your body does not seem to just want to settle with one with one site to kick off.
Why have one when you can have many?
Yeah, that's it. But I suppose for anyone who doesn't, bearing in mind we can't agree on a pronunciation for Behçet's. I went to say Beckett's then, Behçet's, or however we said it. Could you maybe just give a bit of an overview of what that entails, what that looks like?
It's quite a broad thing. I mean, the reason mine was picked up was because I was having ulcers kind of everywhere. And I went through the whole very embarrassing experience of being a 16-year-old girl. In fact, I wasn't quite 16. It was just before my 16th birthday. And we went to the children's hospital, and I had genital ulcers. So we went in, and obviously I then had to show my areas to doctors that I'd never met before. And the feedback we got immediately to my mum was that it was an STI, and I wasn't sexually active. I hadn't even thought of stuff like that. I knew that something wasn't quite right, but I hadn't thought of anything like that. And they literally sent us away from A&E to visit a sexual health clinic in the morning. And I was in tears. Like, how do you rationalize with yourself and with a parent that that's not true? Like, as much as you can say it's not true. And to be fair, my mom did believe me, but I just felt that horrible feeling. Like, I wasn't sure if she thought I was lying, and I wasn't sure what the doctors thought of me. Like, I was 15. What was I thinking? But she took me to an adults hospital, and we explained the whole situation again. And obviously I had to go through the whole lot again. And this time was far worse, because I'd already literally just been told hours before that it was an STI, and they actually listened. And so my original diagnosis was all dealt with through adults care, and they were really good. They let my mum stay with me for the whole 8 weeks or whatever it was we were in hospital. I went through multiple organ failure while they were trying to deal with what it was. They were coming in with laptops being like, have you been to this obscure foreign island? And I was like, I wish. But they listened, and like, they understood. And when I said I haven't been sexually active, like, I'm 15, that's not what I would do, they actually believed me. And that made such a massive difference, to feel like people weren't judging.
Yeah, and that's huge. It just shows how important it is to listen, and also to the value of like the support network. Because what a terrible like seed to plant if somebody hasn't got that supportive like sort of family network or whatever in place. Like, that could be
It could have gone so wrong. Like, if my mom hadn't believed
situation.
Me,
yeah, that's scary.
That was the moment I decided I was going to be a nurse, specifically a pediatric nurse, because I didn't want other people to go through the experiences that I'd had. And like, I was well aware that there were staff on that day in the emergency department that were caring and listening and understood. And then there were other staff that completely dismissed me. And I didn't want other people to feel like that. And I said to my mom around that time, like, I'm going to be a nurse, but I'm going to do it different.
Yeah. That's just really shocking. But it also shows us why we have to keep banging that drum about listening and being careful with the information that's shared, and yeah, and putting value in that sort of lived experience, like you said earlier. Used the word sort of like, the expert in your disease and everything, and
Mhm.
yeah, that sums that up basically. So obviously you've got that, and you said you got the fibro and the EDS and things like that. So how did it sounds like that was like a lot to get your head round. How did that look like in reality in terms of how it impacted you and how it changed your life? And what was, give us a bit of a flavor of like that at that timeline. Like, was it a quick thing or was it a slow and gradual thing?
The progression of my chronic illness was gradual, like really gradual. But I kind of went from not using any support or like occasional crutches to using crutches nearly all the time. The stress of how I was feeling was making chronic migraines worse. That I then spent a lot of time in bed because I just felt too sick to even get up. Like the fatigue was massive. The migraines meant I couldn't turn the light on. I was having assistance to get to the toilet. It all was slow to progress, but once it hit, it was like a ton of bricks, and I didn't really know where you go from there. Like I was working at the time in a hospital still, and I was never told I can't be a nurse anymore, but it was heavily implied.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd been off sick for a long time anyway. I felt like I was about to be medically retired, so I quit. And where do you go from there? Like everyone always says you've got all these transferable skills and you've got so much experience of this, that and the other, but when you actually start looking through Indeed for jobs and stuff, you can't figure out where your skills fit to another job. I was applying for things like management at Lidl, and then like, do you have experience of management at Lidl? And I'm like, no, like I haven't even worked in supermarket, but I feel like I could do it.
I'm smiling, by the way, because I've lost count of how many people try to tell me about my transferable skills, only to find that when you're sick or unreliable, or you're going through that period of trying to work out what's going on and how to manage it, them skills I found became irrelevant pretty bloody quickly.
Yeah, they really do. And it's really disheartening. I spoke to people like Scope and other charities that are supposed to help you find work again, but it was really difficult. I wanted to go back into some form of nursing, but I was always feeling like I was setting the bar too high. So they would say things like, oh, well, maybe have a look into a job at this level. And I'm like, and that's fine, but I want to buy my own house one day. I want to be independent. I want to buy a dog. Like there was a lot that I wanted to do and a lot that isn't funded. So you need money. Like being disabled is expensive. I don't think people realize how much extra stuff you need and how much it costs, and just the extra running costs of running a house that has adapted things in it. So it was just kind of hard, I guess, to find where I fit back in. And I also kind of lost my sense of identity at the same time, because I'd done all this dancing and trampolining and gymnastics and everything else. And then people would say, so what are your hobbies? And I'm like, oh, well, I used to do this or that, like, but now I don't really do anything. Like I sleep and I sometimes eat, and that's kind of it. And like even when I started going out in my new wheelchair, it was one of those NHS tanks, and it was horrendous, and I couldn't push it myself anyway. And so I always had to be with somebody, and I was embarrassed that I was being pushed, and I was embarrassed about how I looked because I'd been inside for so long. Like I'd lost so much muscle tone. I just hated being out of the house, and I couldn't see how I would ever fit back into society, especially not as a nurse. So that kind of went down the lines of I applied to be an activities coordinator in a care home. I thought, well, at least I could do something similar to nursing, not nursing, but I'll be doing something and I'll learn new skills. And, it was a part-time job. It was something I felt like I could do. And it was a lovely manager of that home at the time who was like, why are you applying for this? You're a nurse. Why don't you apply for a nurse position? I was very honest. I said, I can't be a nurse. I've got a wheelchair. It's going to be hard. It's going to be stuff that I can't do. And she was so supportive. She originally told me that she didn't have a job at the moment, but she'd get back in touch. And I gave it the whole like, oh, yeah, we're going to be back in touch. But no, 9 months later, she did, and she offered me a job. So, yeah.
Amazing. It's so nice to know that there are people that are true to their word with that stuff. But I could so relate that bit you said about, almost like the grief and the realizing you have no hobbies. Because I went for a period like 2019 to about 2022-ish, where I literally felt like whenever anyone would ask me that question, I'd rattle off how I used to be a rugby player and I used to play guitar, and that's a really miserable thing. People don't realize the mental burden that has, because you'll say it and then you almost reflect on that conversation and say, who am I anymore? You know, so much has changed.
And who do I want to be? Like, I had no idea
Yes.
what kind of opportunities were even available. I've done some amazing stuff since then. I think I'm still finding what I enjoy, but I've done things like the Willpower sports festivals, where I've been able to try all these different sports and actually realize there's so many people just like me.
Yeah, I didn't even know they were a thing. We definitely need to put a link to that on the video. Yeah, send me that after the show, because
Yeah.
I think anyway we can help people connect. Because for me, re-establishing that bit of like who I am and finding things for me and finding things that I enjoy is kind of what helped me then overcome the change and the grief and start moving forwards and accepting. Because I think until you do that, it's really difficult, isn't it? And yeah, it takes a very long time as well to sort of understand what you want to do at that point. So yeah, well done for you for going through all of that and still sort of wanted to sort of keep that passion and everything. And I suppose my I've got a couple of questions. I feel like let's bring the dog in first, and then I want to ask some about the actual, like, how, you know, what nursing looks like for you. Sorry to wake you up, Ocho. So when did Ocho come on the scene? And yeah, tell us a little bit about him.
So Ocho is now 3 and a bit. I wanted a charity trained assistance dog. I wanted one of those ones where you sign up online and they match you to a dog, and then on your doorstep arrives a fully trained dog and he just starts working. I thought that would be brilliant. Yeah. So I had applied to all the different charities that I'd potentially be eligible for. I'd waited 2 years already, I think, and then COVID hit and everything went off and the list spiraled, and
yeah,
it was something that I'd been really aiming for. So I'd been living by myself for a couple of years and I felt like I was ready to take on a dog, and in my head I was like, it must be coming, it's been years since I applied. And then COVID happened and I obviously had to shield, I guess, like most of the people that are watching.
Yeah.
And so for 9 months I lived in my flat on my own, not even opening my door to collect the mail because I was terrified by the letters that the government was sending.
Yeah.
And all I wanted was a dog. So we got to coming out of COVID, but no, we were coming out of lockdown, weren't we? I think COVID just hasn't gone away. And the first thing I did was buy a house with a garden. And within a week of it all going through, I bought a puppy.
Awesome.
And this is him, my little monster.
Gorgeous.
So
he's so gorgeous.
He's funny. So I trained him myself for 18 months. And then I got lucky and the charity Dog Aid accepted us onto their books. We got matched with a local trainer.
Yeah.
So he is
okay, so they can
trained.
do it that as well. It doesn't have to always be a dog they've supplied.
Yeah, no. So Dog Aid are one of the few ADA UK registered charities that train a pet dog to become a life-saving assistance dog.
Ah, okay.
Again, they've got waiting lists. Everybody does. But they're always looking for new trainers in your area. You can recruit trainers that you already know of to like increase the I guess flow through the charity. But yeah, there was already a trainer in my area. He already had space. So at 18 months we joined. We then worked through all their levels. He became fully trained in May last year. So we booked a holiday. We're going on a cruise.
Oh, awesome. I love that. I hope he's got a black dinner suit to wear for like the evening.
Oh, he does. Don't you worry. He's got so many outfits.
And anyone listening to this back on the podcast, you will be able to find the video on our YouTube channel. Just look for Joel versus Arthritis if you want to see the beautiful dog we're referring to. Obviously that came with loads of benefits. Like you said, you're on your own, and obviously post lockdown we all felt very much isolated and needed that. I think it's one of the reasons why I got another dog. But I suppose I must admit, I forgot just how much hard work a puppy was. And I still feel today, like mine's a year old and I'm failing. Like he's not, because people think you're getting at this perfect animal, and you're not. They got their own personality and they got their own agendas, and it's working
Trust
with
the process.
them. Yeah, exactly.
Trust the process.
Yeah, my wife tells me that.
Like, he wasn't even particularly well behaved until he was 2. Like, he could do things on cue, and like when we went to somewhere where he was in public, sure, he could look like, you know, the perfect dog, but then you'd see him at home and you'd be like, oh my god, what a whirlwind.
Yeah, that is very reassuring, thank you.
We didn't get this until he was 2.5.
Okay, I'm gonna hold on to that. But I suppose, let's say, like, I found, like, I got a puppy. I was like, oh my word, this is like having another child. Another child might have even been easier, because at least I could have, you know, sat down for 5 minutes. But what would maybe, do you want to maybe talk about some of the specific challenges you faced with sort of limited mobility or being a wheelchair user in terms of like, you know, training him? How did you adapt to that, and what did that look like?
My mum helped a lot. I didn't realize how quickly a puppy gets strong. You see the Andrex puppy and he looks so cute and cuddly, and then you start walking him, and at first he's gorgeous and he walks right next to you and you don't have to worry about where he is because he's so attached. And then they get to what, 8-9 months, and suddenly they've got a mind of their own and they're interested in everything. And we were out one day on the seafront, and it wasn't even that steep a hill, but it was a bit of a slope, and he pulled to the side just at the wrong angle and tipped my chair over, and that scared me completely. I was ready to give up. I was scared that having him was causing me more problems than he would ever be able to solve for me. I was worried that he was going to injure me. I thought by falling out of my chair, you know, I'm going to get an injury. I'm going to get scared. I didn't want to feel like I couldn't walk him. And so we did a lot of intense training with my mum where he was on a double lead so that he couldn't do anything that would put me in danger. But I needed a lot of support. It's not something that I would want to do on my own ever.
No, that I can so relate to that whole strength thing, because I went from having this timid little puppy that was like in my shadow, and a car would go past and he'd cower underneath my foot and all this sort of thing. And then it was like one day, he, like you say, 8-9 months, and I had been warned. All the training went out the window. Like, he'll listen to my wife and son. He doesn't listen to me anymore. I'm just the mug that walks him. and like all that went out the window, and suddenly he started lunging after birds. And the last 2 months, suddenly he's realized cats exist, and he's decided they're different, and he's going to lunge after them. And as a guy with sort of like wobbly feet some days, and that, I had that same. He rolled my ankle once, and I was like, I went through that same process. I said to my wife, like, I don't know if this is going to have the benefits. So I think that's a really important thing to share, because otherwise, like, I talk a lot about, you know, the negative side of social media and how people only maybe see those glory, you know, them days where people are having wins and that. It's really important to share that it's not a straight line, and it's not. I think
it's really important, though, to remember as well that what you see on social media is a staged version of what's happening. So, there are times when he's absolutely perfect, of course. Like, we've done displays in schools where I've been demonstrating the tasks that he does that help me. And I always give a little bit of a disclaimer at the start of the talk, like, he's trained to help me, but he'll be very aware that this is an unusual situation and he might not behave appropriately. And then he blew me out the water, like, absolutely perfect, did all his tasking, listened to everything, couldn't be prouder. But then you have the other side where you're walking down the street one day and this highly trained dog suddenly barks at something that he's never barked at before, and the embarrassment, like, people look. But you wouldn't post that bit on social media because the community wouldn't accept it. They see these dogs as incredible dogs, which they are, but they are still dogs. They're not robots.
Yeah, so it's a really important point. So what are some of the sort of role? How does he help you? What are some of the sort of things he does to assist you?
So I guess the most helpful stuff is helping me get undressed. Sometimes I can do it myself, but if you've done a whole day of work, doing something like bending down to take your socks off can be really difficult. It can be helping me get leggings off, because I love wearing leggings. They're really comfortable in a wheelchair without the seams and things, but also can be quite stuck, especially at the end of the day. Things like getting jumpers over my head. If I'm struggling to get my arms up, he can pull that for me and just give me that assistance to get it over my head and get ready for bed. He can also do things like picking up things that I drop. I'm sure you've done it in your chair when you drop something and it's just out of reach. Like, he would just automatically get that. I don't have to worry. Or if we're out in the wind and something blows out of my hand, he'll automatically get that. He can do things like opening doors. He can load and unload the washing machine. He can help me tidy up, putting things in the bin or putting things back in his toy box. I mean, he's got tricks as well, because everyone always wants to be like, oh, can he shake your hand? Yeah, of course he can. But the actual things that help me are way bigger than that.
I got told off by teaching my dog the whole paw thing, because it's like, it serves no purpose. And now every time you ask him to do anything, you're just going to get a paw waving at you. And it's so true. Like, for about a week after that, I tried to get him to sit and lay down. It's just paw waving everywhere. Oh, that's just amazing, though. Like, and like I say, what a benefit that brings you, because obviously you get the massive companionship thing with dogs.
Definitely.
And being somebody that's lived with dogs my entire life, I can't imagine being without one. But then to be able to help you with that sort of stuff as well, just that must be a game changer.
I didn't really like dogs. I liked my friend's guide dog, and it was chatting to him about the different types of assistance dog and how they could help me that I kind of went down that route. But no, I wasn't a huge fan of dogs. We've always been cat people.
Okay, I'm massively allergic to cats, so I'm very much I have a very biased like view because of how it personally affects me. But yeah, that's just amazing. Thank you for sharing, and I'm so glad he's in the mood to join us tonight because he looked very handsome on camera earlier there. So if we maybe like turn then to your nursing career and what you do now, like what does that look like? What adaptations have to take place and everything for you to be able to do that? And also, I suppose in a way, what role does Ocho play in all of that as well?
So for me, not a lot of adaptations have been needed because of the role that I do. So my role is kind of getting people that have either been in hospital for a long time or have been at home but struggling back to living as independently as possible. So a lot of the places that I visit are either hospitals before they come home or are adapted houses because they are moving into somewhere that better suits their needs. So a lot of the time their needs are quite similar. In terms of, it could be a young person that is just leaving children's services and wants to live independently, and we can provide a live-in carer or visiting carers to help them be as independent as possible. Or it could be somebody who's in their 80s and lost their husband last year and is really struggling to keep on top of everything. So it's quite a mixed bag of the people that I support, but in terms of their needs, they're quite similar. And the whole idea of my job is to help them to live again. It's very much to see what support we can offer them and how carers can be supportive but not take over. So I teach carers how to do things like tube feeds, to assist with home ventilation, anything really that is, I guess, more care than your standard carer would offer. But in turn, it lets them live a normal life again.
That must be really rewarding as well, like on the rehabilitation sort of side of things as well.
I love it because I've been there. It's really nice seeing people going through that stage that we were talking about, that loss of identity and that loss of independence, just feeling lost, to seeing them 2 years down the line off to a concert with their live-in carer that they've grown really close with. Like, you know, the carer knows exactly what they want and when they want it, and off they go. And that's so nice to see them actually living again. And part of what we do is helping them to set meaningful goals. So looking at what they would like to achieve and how we can help them achieve it.
Yeah, I love that. And is Ocho always with you in that role? Like,
yeah.
All time.
So Ocho goes everywhere that he's allowed to go. So obviously legally he can go everywhere with me. But I do understand that I go into people's personal homes. It is their private place. They might have their own pets. They might have their own assistance dog. They might just not want my dog going in with them. And that's completely fine. Like, I will either leave him somewhere else. So it could be that I leave him in the office. It could be that I book him into doggy daycare. Or we will do the training somewhere else. So it could be that we did the training at the office and then did a very short visit to the client's home to actually put what we've learned into practice. But yeah, he goes pretty much everywhere with me. He's been dual trained. So he is also a therapy dog. He wears a different uniform and he has a different role. He will sit on people's beds or sit by people in like armchairs and just provide that kind of tactile distraction when we're having those difficult conversations about what support they actually need.
Yeah, I love that. I just know I'd feel instantly relaxed. I know not dogs aren't for everyone, but I'd feel instantly relaxed having those sort of conversations with him there. And I swear he wagged his tail when you said doggy daycare, so he obviously enjoys that.
He does love doggy daycare. Yeah, I should cover his ears.
Oh, that's just brilliant. And in terms of like I think you said right at the top, like you're in a job you love and dream job and everything. So you've kind of already answered my question, but my question was going to be like, how far away is this from when you were having those, you know, hopes and dreams when you were younger and everything? Like, how far away is it from, you know, how close to that sort of life have you been able to live?
Okay, so if I'm being honest, when I was at school and we were doing that careers advice thing, I wanted to be a stunt double. I wanted to be in films, being the person that jumps out of aeroplanes. And, you know,
I love that.
I went through all of this training, doing gymnastics and taekwondo and archery and fencing and everything else because I wanted to tick all the boxes to become a stunt double. But obviously life changes. I mean, they laugh me out the room anyway, but I don't think much of careers advisors at school, to be honest.
No, I just love how much you were thinking about it. You went no fencing, and you were thinking sword fights, explosions, everything.
Oh, it was. Yeah. I was well up for it. That was going to be my dream role. So I guess, I say that I'm in my dream job now. It is my dream job. It's the job that I took seriously and I went to university to do, and it is my dream job and I absolutely love it. But I think it's really hard when you're 15, 16 and a careers advisor is asking you what you want to do. I don't think you necessarily know.
No, I still to this day remember, because I was in a wheelchair at high school and haven't been since. And I'm sure because of that fact, I was told to be a museum curator. And I'm sure that was because it was the most sort of like non-moving, slow-paced, and quiet career that they could think of. And I had no, I didn't even really have a strong interest in history back then, but that was literally what they told me to do when I was in like year 9 or whatever it was. And I'm sure to this day that was heavily influenced by what they saw rather than what I as a person wanted to do,
Definitely. And you don't know what your life holds. When you're 14, 15, 16, you have no idea what the future holds. I mean, both of our situations are completely different now to they were when we were trying to make those really hard decisions about your future at such a young age. I think it's a very difficult conversation that we're kind of forced into having quite early on.
Yeah, and like I say, you then have that added into the mix where you have that sort of like fluid situation with your health, and like anyone who's lived with a long-term health condition knows how that is just up and down, and who knows what tomorrow looks like. It's certainly not what yesterday looked like, and all that sort of thing. So to try and make those decisions is really like I pretty much picked the most generic future-proof course at university I could for that very reason. I had no idea what I wanted to do at 18. I probably didn't know what I wanted to do at 30, and I'm still sort of trying to discover that. So it's really hard, but it's great that you were still able, once you sort of had your heart set on nurse and everything, to be able to retain it. I think that hopefully gives people a lot of hope that are watching or listening to this, where I don't know about you, but my DMs are always very full of people who are like long-term sick leave, or they're seeing things just getting they're losing a grip of that thing that they love, and to hear a story where somebody's managed to find a way to make that work, I think is really important.
I think it's really difficult. I've spoken to a lot of people who were in a similar situation to me. They were looking towards being medically retired, and it wasn't really what they wanted, but they didn't really know what to do going forward, and they kind of just let it happen. And it's really sad. Like, we hear all the time on the news about the shortage of nurses, and yet there's people out there that did all the training and know what they could be doing, but it's physical barriers that stop them being able to continue. But the funding already went into them. Like, my generation, we had our nursing paid for. Like, we didn't pay to go to university. I mean, it costs obviously, but like the actual course was funded because they were short of nurses, and yet now nurses have to pay for it. And I just think there's so many people of my generation and before that used all that training and got all that knowledge that could still be working if the adaptations had been put in place. And I don't want people to think like that Chloe did it so anyone can do it, because that's not the case. Like, I know that there are people who really fought to keep their careers going and still ended up without their nursing job. And I don't want to take anything away from them, because I know how hard they tried. I know what I went through being able to keep my own job. And I got lucky. I found people that wanted to employ me as a disabled nurse, but not everybody gets those opportunities. So I guess kind of what I want to say is that I really want it to be a bigger thing. I want to see more people like me working in healthcare and working as carers or doctors or anybody within health and social care. But I'm aware how difficult it is. And if I can make that journey just a little bit easier, then I feel like I've done something.
Yeah, and that's such an important point. As somebody that's been on the receiving end of that, when I was long-term sick going into the pandemic, which was the worst time for it to happen, and the amount of times that whole, I'll just accept medical retirement and move on, and I thought, no, I'm in my 30s, I've got so much more to offer, and just because I can't get into the office right now, thankfully COVID came along and made life a lot easier, and I can now work from home, and if I'm having a bad day, I can take a bit longer, I can start late, finish late, I can take breaks, and I go for walks during the day and all this sort of thing. But that would have been like inconceivable before the pandemic. And even now you'll still get the odd bit of pressure for people are wanting to revert that, and I find that really disappointing and quite ironic as well. I've had experiences where people have contacted me where, you know, say patient organizations or things like that have gone back, and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, we've not learned anything like in terms of those adjustments we could make. So it's really important, that point you make about, you know, it's not that person's condition that stops them. It's like the adaptations, the barriers for the workplace and everything. And so hard to find them good ones out there, minority, that are willing to work with you and find a way to utilize them skills, because just because you get ill, you haven't lost those skills that you had, have you? But you're very much made to feel like that. Is that similar experience to what you had?
Yeah, very much so. It feels like your disability becomes your identity rather than everything that you worked for before and everything you planned on doing after. And it's very hard to set yourself meaningful goals when you feel like nobody believes in you anymore.
Yeah, and then that whole low self-esteem thing and low mood, which is stuff we have to deal with our conditions anyway, but it just gets compounded and just so much harder. You're clearly a massive professional at this, because I wanted to come around before we ended to talk about what you do for advocacy awareness, and you've just taken us there beautifully. I suppose what I would have asked is that, you know, when did you start wanting to share your story? And was it like an active thing where you just, I'm going to start doing this, or did you find yourself doing it naturally because of your experiences?
I think I've only been comfortable being me for 2 years. I enjoyed doing what I was doing, and I was aware that I was in the minority being a disabled nurse. I wasn't aware how small a percentage that is. And as you said earlier, it's 4% of nurses that have declared a disability, but that includes things like dyslexia. So the actual percentage of people that have, say, a physical disability or like a very obvious disability is even less. Like, it's just not a thing that seems to be widely employed, which is such a shame. But I kind of kept myself to myself. I didn't really want to draw attention to myself. I didn't want it to become a thing because I didn't want to lose my job over it. It wasn't until March last year, when I won the Inspirational Woman on ITV on This Morning, that I realized that it is a big deal, and that actually people were looking towards me to see what I'd done and if they could kind of follow that pathway. And it was a turning point. I felt like I'd been seen and that it hadn't gone awful. Like, people weren't talking about me in the same way. So I had been in the news before, because people pick up on stories like that, don't they? So I had been in the news before, and I'd made the dumb mistake of reading the comments underneath one of the news articles, and people were saying, oh, what can she even do? What can she do as a nurse in a wheelchair? Like, it's pointless that they keep employing her. She's a waste of NHS money. And like, that hurt. Like, I didn't realize that people were that cruel. And so then when I was on the TV and the comments were so good, like, I was reading all these different newspaper articles about how inspirational I was. And I hadn't put that word with myself before. To me, I was just getting on with my job. I was doing exactly what I'd been trained to do. I've been trained to be a nurse. I'm doing nursing. There's nothing inspirational about that. But actually, to the people who want to also follow that pathway, it is inspirational. And I now see that. And I've kind of taken that further. Like, I've started being put forward for more events and awards and things to be out there and to be seen and to have these chats like we're having with people. So I did a magazine article for the Kids to Adults exhibition, because there are children that are having those difficult careers advice conversations like now, and I want them to see that it is possible. You just need the right support.
Yes, it's brilliant, and it's no surprise that you found your path with that whole sharing thing, because if anyone hasn't watched This Morning interview, go find that. I know no host should say, go look at that now. Like, that's like that's the worst thing I could do. But seriously, is that good? Just search Chloë Hammond This Morning, it'll come up. And you were so authentic and genuine, and I think that really comes across. I
had no idea what was happening. I thought I was going to my brother's wedding.
I could tell. But I think as well, though, hearing you speak now, it's clear that how far you've come with that as well. And I think you've just said so many things. I have my content creator brain on when I'm doing these, and you're like, oh, I need to clip that and I need to clip that, and that'll be a really important message here. And it's just been this constant stream of things you've said, like the whole talking about the listening and the grief and the, people being experts in their condition, and you tick all the boxes with all those really important issues that should be spoke about. And And
it's strange for me how my pathway changed. I very much started this nursing path because I wanted to be a nurse that did it differently. And that's still very true. But I think although I provide a lot of help and support and care to my patients, I provide a lot of support now to the bigger network and to the future nurses that are coming through. I'm doing the talk at Oxford Brookes University later this year. And I think recognizing how my own career path has changed, it's been such a weird but amazing journey.
Yeah, and I was going to actually say that. Do you do anything for on board and the next generation? Because for me, that just feels like the obvious thing, and that's why I sort of really hammered home that point you said earlier about the barriers and stuff. Because there is no reason why you can't perform these roles, and maybe the stunt woman would have been too far, but you know what I mean, being able to be a nurse and this sort of thing. And I think it's really important that we show people how to have those conversations. And I suppose I know I'm putting you on the spot here because we don't pre-prepare anything, but is there anything, like, for anyone that's been listening to us two here, and we've talked from both sides about the challenges we've faced with employment and long-term sick and stuff like that, how is there anything you'd say for anyone who's got to try and maybe have those conversations with employers about making adaptations, or if the goalposts are moved a little bit with their health?
I think those conversations are really difficult, especially as they feel like they were sprung on you. You're in a position where you're vulnerable. You've been off, you've been sick, you are having these conversations because you want to go back to work or because the employer wants you to come back to work. And it feels like it's sprung on you. You go from being really rock bottom in terms of your health or your well-being and just your headspace about work, and then all of a sudden you're having these talks where they are springing on you what kind of adaptations would help you come back, and you're not even necessarily ready to come back, but you're trying to think off the top of your head. So I would say planning is helpful. I mean, we all know roughly where we're at the moment. Like, I know that I can walk a little bit, but I do need my chair for bigger things. But I'm planning ahead. I have an adapted house, just about. I know that if my condition is worse, so on my bad days, I can still get around. And I think pre-planning in the workplace is just as important. I wouldn't take a job now that was upstairs without a lift, because yes, sometimes I could get up the stairs, but not reliably. So I think pre-planning, trying to have a list of things that could happen. We have all looked into our own conditions and we're all quite aware. So for Bechet's, it could affect my eyesight. So I've already looked into what I could do if that was to be a thing. I've looked into organisations that could help me change my assistance dog into a dog that can guide. But it's things that I have in the back of my mind in case I need them in the future. I've applied for a wheelchair accessible vehicle because I can't get my power chair in the car. That's never going to fit. And I can't always self-propel my manual chair because it's hard work. But I think having an idea of what would help you either now or in the future, and having someone that can stand up for you, it's really hard, especially when employers are feeling like they're coming down on you, telling you that they can only do this or they can't do that they can do it. And you just need someone to stand up for you, like in your corner.
Absolutely perfectly said. I couldn't have thought of a better way to say it. It's like, especially that, having a sort of an advocate or someone, because you're at your lowest point. I think that was my experience. I'm at my lowest point. I was really good at my job. I had high hopes for my career. I seemed to be on this upward trajectory, and then suddenly the blanket is pulled from a rug. It's a terrible phrase. Rug pulled from underneath you. And then you're at this lowest point, and suddenly someone's talking about, your prospects or your attendance record or what must happen otherwise, X, Y, and Z. And I think I found myself so easily just agreeing to everything, and to my detriment. Oh, okay. I'm glad it wasn't just me. And if I'd have had someone just say, no, Joel, that isn't what's best for you, or that things are maybe getting pushed a little bit in their favor and not yours, or whatever. And, there's only so many health referrals and things you can do before you start feeling like you're going to an interview or you're on trial and you don't really know what else to say. And
so having when I first started using my wheelchair, I wanted to take it with me to work. Obviously, that was the whole point. I compromised that I would leave my chair at reception so that it didn't clutter up the office.
Wow. Yeah.
I felt like I had to. I didn't want to, obviously. It was my chair and it was made to fit me and it was comfortable. And for once, my hips were feeling like they were in line. But You know, I was told it was going to clutter up the office and it would be in the way and it wasn't really suitable and I could leave it at reception. I was like, oh, okay.
Unbelievable. And that expression, exactly that, isn't it? Because you're in such a low point, you just like nod and smile. And so I worked somewhere once where my arthritis returned after a massive period of remission. I was basically a normal, fit and healthy person, and then my arthritis returned. And just as that was going on, they decided they were going to turn the only disabled toilet on site into an office for someone. And someone came and said, "You don't mind, though, do you? You won't need it. You'll be all right." And I'd done the same thing, just that nod and smile, and got home and I was really devastated. But I think it takes a long while to get from that point where everything just fallen down around you, or so it feels, to when you're like this empowered, you know, where maybe you and I are. So I think it's really important to stress to people that doesn't happen overnight, and you need people in your corner to help build you up to a position where you can sort of like stand up for yourself, don't you?
Yeah. And I think friends and family can be massive advocates because they see you at your worst, whereas you hide that mostly from your employers when you can.
Yeah, and that not wanting to show weakness. And I was going to say actually earlier, it just didn't come up on my notes, was around that figure with, you know, as somebody that works in the NHS myself, when I joined the NHS, I didn't say I was disabled. It took a lot of years of working in the NHS for me to feel confident enough that I could put that on the staff survey without it. You know what I mean? I know they're not supposed to be confidential and all this sort of thing, but unfortunately, you do feel that, you know, you do feel like it's going to put you at risk. And I think once I'd been working 5-6 years, felt like I'd proved myself, then I started saying that. And then, but if I'd have gone into that situation when I was low and things weren't going well with my health, absolutely not. I'd have wanted to, but then you can't get the support you need, can you? So it's a sort of catch-22. I'm conscious of time. You've and also Ocho has been amazingly patient. I don't want to push that. It's been brilliant since he's had his dinner. He's like a different dog to what we saw in the green room before we went live. Chloe, you're doing amazing things. You speak brilliantly. I could listen to you all day. And if anyone else would like to sort of find out what you're up to, because I know I certainly would love to sort of catch up with you again, or hopefully maybe one day we can meet an event in person or something. Where can people find you and hear more about what you're working on, and also probably a little bit follow the dog as well?
All right, so let's start with me. I will be at NADEX on both days this year. I'll be at the Disability Expo in London. You can follow me on social media. It's at wheelie.nurse.with.a.dog. And then Ocho is watch Ocho grow, all one word. Ocho because he's number 8.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, which I didn't realise until we were talking before the show that was the Spanish number 8. Thank you so much for joining us, Chloe. We must. I know we're going to be extremely busy. I'm at NADEX for the first day. We must find 5 minutes to.
We will. We need a photo. We've got to get a selfie.
Yeah, at the very least. Yeah, I'm trying to make a list of all the people I've got to get right, because it's my first time going there, and yeah, lots of overdue conversations with people. So yeah, we'll make it happen. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing everything. You are an inspiration, whether you like people saying that or not. And just watching you grow from that, watching that this morning video to hearing you talk today, it's just wonderful. And you say all the right things and keep doing the amazing work you're doing, both in your career but also in awareness and advocacy as well.
I'll keep trying. It's all we can do.
Yeah, that is very true. Have a good evening, Chloe. Thank you so much
for having us. Bye.
Bye. Guys, thank you so much. You were so polite and in chat. Like I've never seen you guys go so quiet in chat. Like you're clearly listening intently. So thank you so much for everybody that was with us throughout that. I'm not saying if you missed the start, the minute we go offline tonight, you will be able to find the video on our YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, straight after this. But what a brilliant guest, guys. Like, I get very nervous, as many of you will know. And welcome in again, Barry. You were phenomenal last week, Barry. And absolutely phenomenal. If anyone hasn't checked out Barry's interview from last week, guys, go see it. I've never had such a reaction to an unedited video, so clearly that's gonna reach a lot of people and do well. Yeah, I've never had I get very nervous and anxious, and I worry about this stuff. It's only because I care, probably stupidly. And who cares if something goes wrong? We'll make it work. We'll have a phone call if we have to, or whatever. But I normally get very anxious. But I was very calm and relaxed. I said to my wife, who's there in chat, like I was looking forward to this one. And there are a few that I look forward to, and I don't know, very relaxing. Chloe, I think Chloe just could relax anyone and talk so brilliantly, and yeah, just really enjoyed that. Thank you for all the kind words, guys. There were some before I put chat on screen. So Selby, welcome in, mate. I don't think I saw you earlier before I'd done the interview. Welcome in. Selby said, actually, let's share some of these that didn't come up on screen. That brilliant guest. And Rachel, I saw you put lots of things in throughout the chat, so so thank you for sharing those. And also, guys, thank you to everyone that's candid on here. We ask a lot of our guests to come on and have an unscripted, we don't prepare any questions in advance other than what we've sort of talked about when they sign up. It ends up being very informal, and that isn't for everyone. So thank you to all our guests that come on and do that and are prepared to have that sort of conversation, but also for everything that you guys share in chat, because it really does make us what we are and make us special. There is 1,000,001 podcasts and things out there these days, and they're all very formal, and it's all about branding and sponsorships and product placement and all this sort of stuff. And we just come on and have real conversations, like organically and candidly, and I think that's really important. And if I ever lose that, kick my ass. Like if anything changes, if I come back from doing this European thing this summer and I suddenly, I don't know what it's gonna look if you suddenly see like sound what are they called, dampener things on my walls, or I start having like YouTube. Actually, if I got a YouTube plaque, I would absolutely put it on the wall, but you know what I mean. If I start like trying to sell creams and miracle cures and stuff like that, just get me cancelled, because what we have here is really special and we need to keep that going, because if we can make people feel comfortable to come on and talk about those real experiences, and Chloe talked about some really personal stuff there, as many of our guests do, and they do it happily to try and help raise awareness. And like I say, every week I say this, but it's very true, we try to serve those two purposes. If we can reach that person that's isolated, that feels alone, that feels like they're failing, that feels like they're the only one because Instagram told them they were, and all this sort of thing, then we've done our job. And on the flip side of that, if we can help start conversations, break down barriers, improve patient outcomes because we've opened the door or shone a light. I live with something called psoriatic arthritis, and for a lot of years people didn't consider the comorbidities. They didn't recognize that heart problems, cardiovascular disease, mental health, depression, male obesity are all linked to these things. And it's only when you sort of got to the internet age and people started saying, oh, you have that too, so do I, and you have that too, so do I, that we kind of forced that conversation to happen. And that's what we're doing here. We're shining a light on those experiences. Nobody is more of an expert in their condition than the ones that are living with it 24/7. And we hope by having these conversations we can prompt more, domino effect. So thank you for everyone that's hung out tonight, guys. We do have a quieter week in the world of Joel versus arthritis, JVA, whatever you want to call it. I don't really know how to refer to myself anymore. So there should be a couple of streams on Twitch, probably Tuesday and Thursday, looking at the diary. But don't forget, guys, there isn't the event up yet, but there will be tomorrow. Dr. Eliz Pryor is joining us. Professor from the University of Salford who lives with a couple of autoimmune diseases, but also a very prominent figure in the rheumatology space in the UK. Like if you've had anything to do with rheumatology in the UK, you couldn't have missed the wonderful work that she's done in the past. So we're very fortunate to have her join us. And I'd like to think the seeds for that were sown when we met in EULAR a year ago in Italy. So I am absolutely going to hopefully catch up with Chloe at NADEX, as with many others. If anyone was watching this, particularly the LinkedIn crowd, because that tends to be where many of the sort of professional side of our audience are. I'm at NADEX on day one. I'd like to meet as many of you as possible in person. I'm also going to take my podcast audio recorder. I haven't asked. I haven't got a license, or I don't even know what NADEX are like on these things. Most conferences I just turn up with it and I don't get questioned. I'll put an ID badge around my neck or something and look formal, or wear headphones. But I'm going to take my audio recorder. So if anyone would like to come and say like a little 30-second, 1-minute thing of what they're there doing and why they're doing it, I'd love to get a little sneaky NADEX episode out of my time there. I am obviously, of course, there primarily to represent Enable to Parent, which are a very small UK charity that help disabled people reach their sort of life goals of having parents, be parents, have the support they need, both from family planning, but also once baby arrives. And it's a really difficult area to operate in. Like we talked a little bit about tonight, many people are scared to ask for help. They think it's going to mean they're going to lose their child, have things taken away from them, etc. So Sarah, our founder, will be there for both days. I'll be there on day one as a trustee and treasurer. I'm happy to tell you more about what we do there. We're also on the lookout for trustees. So if anybody thinks that they'd like to get involved with helping disabled parents in the UK, or think they have anything they could offer us, please do get in touch with that. That'd be amazing. But otherwise, if you are at NAIDEX, please let me know in advance and I'll try and coordinate. I do these things so many times and we're all so really busy and then it doesn't happen, but there are so many wonderful people like Chloe I really do want to try and meet this year, guys. So let's make it happen. I know we all say these things, but let's put a time on it, because otherwise it doesn't happen. I've got somebody in the autoimmune community in America that I've been about 8 conferences with at the same time as them, and we keep saying we're going to meet and it hasn't happened. So let's put a time and date on it and we'll make it happen. I think that's probably enough waffle from me, guys. Thank you for everyone that's hung out tonight. Thank you for all the lovely comments. Hopefully Chloe has seen most of them. I noticed they're stuck around tonight, so they are watching. And thank you for being a wonderful guest again, Chloe. Guys, coming up this week will be another video coming up on the YouTube channel where we'll edit it down to the interview. There's also another podcast episode coming out at the end of next week. If you haven't checked out the current ones, then please do. We released Rachel, who you've seen on chat. In chat, we had Rachel and Mark on recently from our ACC UK. We hurried them out very quickly. I'm sure I'm going to get complaints from people waiting in the queue, and the backlog that we have of 6 months worth of episodes to get out for the podcast. But we hurried that through for Rare Disease Day this year. So go check those out if you haven't already, guys. And until next Sunday, or if you're over on Twitch beforehand, I will see you soon. I'm going to do a very quick one. Just anyone who missed it at the start, please feel free to scan that QR code to join our Discord community, where you can find all these lovely people you see in chat throughout the week. Just awesome people support each other. There's people that hang out in voice chat, playing computer games together, doing watch parties together, and join us on Twitch and YouTube. And peer support is ultimately what we are here for. The guests and the stories is obviously amazing, and we're very fortunate and honored to have the people we have come on our show. But I'd be here anyway just to create a peer support space, even if nobody wanted to come on, which, let's be honest, 2 years ago was kind of where we are. We was asking everyone and everyone was saying no, and thankfully we've got guests now. But we'd be here anyway, as the long-term viewers would know. So thank you so much for anyone that joins us over on Discord, so we can try and fill that gap, that peer support need, hanging around with people that understand. We don't have to make excuses if you have to disappear, or you're not very present, or you're having a bad day. I lean on them as much as hopefully we can help them as well. So it's very selfish, but I get what I need from it as well. So please do go check that out, guys. And I think until next time, that's probably me done. And thank you so much. If you've enjoyed this, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really does help other people find us. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. I hope Monday's kind to you guys. Take care and take it easy. Bye-bye.